The people like you who make this country run with your hard work. But due to the greed of Wall Street, receive so little in return.
We are going live to Bernie Sanders' rally in Toledo, Ohio. The introductory speaker is up right now. We want to thank Fox 8 Cleveland for bringing this stream to us. Thank you, Fox 8 Cleveland.
That's why I'm proud to support Bernie Sanders for president, and I stand with Bernie because Bernie stands with us. Now, it is my honor to introduce a true warrior for working people, Representative Marcy Kaptur has been fighting for the people of Toledo for more than 30 years. She stood up to the big banks when they were stealing people's homes. She has stood up against Wall Street and the strongest opponent to trade deals that have destroyed communities and shipped good jobs overseas. Toledoans, join me in giving Marcy Kaptur a great Toledo welcome.
Thank you, my dear friend Baltimore, and thank you all for coming to build a better and stronger America. Thank you for your time today. We love you, and we desperately love this country, and we want it to be a country for all, not just the privileged few. And I want to thank all those who preceded me on the program today. State Senator Nina Turner, whose passion and energy for real change is always evident. And my esteemed colleague from Hawaii, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, whose service to our country has taken her from the battlefields of Iraq to the battlefields of Congress in Washington, D.C. And my dear friend Valdemar, with whom it has been an honor to fight for over 3 decades for economic fairness and justice for all. I was reminded when Valdemar and I were the age of some of the younger people in the front rows here, we were boycotting grapes with Cesar Chavez to try to change the lives of ordinary people. Yes. And as I begin my remarks today, I dedicate my remarks to the 3 25ers. You may not know them, but they were members of the 3rd Battalion, 25th Regiment, 4th Marine Division in Brook Park, Ohio, which is in the 9th Congressional District. And just over 10 years ago, 14 members of that unit in one of the worst engagements in Iraq lost 14 of their members, along with 26 others who were
What's going on, folks, just so you know, is that this is Fox 8. They're going to do coverage. This is what they do. And we could watch it. We can cut away from it, but this is what happens when you use a Fox stream like this or a stream like this. This is how they broadcast. So that's what's going to come up. We go right to Bernie.
Thank you. What a turnout. Thank you so much. Let me thank Nina Turner, one of the great political leaders here in the state of Ohio. Nina, thank you so much. And let me thank Kristen Robideau on our staff, David Engels from the UAW, thank you so much, Mike Futrell. Let me thank Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard for being here, for being a real voice of conscience. And Baldadar Velasquez, active in the labor movement. And lastly, again, let me thank all of you for doing a real service for the American people, sending Marcy Kaptur to the Congress. I have known Marcy for decades, and what I want to tell you, there is honestly nobody in the United States Congress who fights harder for working people than your Congresswoman, Marcy Kaptur. Thank you for sending her. Now, I know that the people in Ohio do not necessarily know a whole lot about Bernie Sanders. Let me just say a few things. Thank you. I learned about economics not from school books, but from living in a family and growing up in a family that did not have a lot of money. And I remember like it was yesterday, the stress and the struggles that existed in our family about whether we could buy this or do that or do that. That lesson of growing up in a family that struggled economically is a lesson that I have never forgotten and I will never forget. And I know today that we are the richest country in the history of the world, but the vast majority of the people in Ohio and America don't know that because they are working longer hours for lower wages while almost all of the new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. So what we are going to do as a nation is create an economy that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. Now, what this campaign is about is asking people to think outside of the box, outside of the status quo, outside of the presentation by corporate media about what they think we should be doing. It is to ask some hard questions. Here's the question. In the last 30 years, there has been an explosion in technology. Every worker in America today is producing far more than he or she did 20, 30 years ago. Given that reality, why is it that millions of our people are working longer hours for lower wages? Why is it that millions of new jobs are paying less than those same jobs paid 20 years ago? Why is it that over the last 30 years we have seen a massive transfer of wealth from the pockets of working people into the hands of the top 0.1%? Why is it that today, and listen to this because this is really pretty shocking, why is it today that the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%? Why is it that the wealthiest 20 people in this country now own more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans, half our population? Why is it that in a time of a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth? Brothers and sisters, together we are going to change that. We are going to create an economy that works for workers, that works for our children, that works for seniors, that works for veterans, and not just works for the top 1%. Now, Secretary Clinton and I have a whole lot of differences in terms of our views, in terms of our votes, in terms of the positions that we have taken over many, many years. I want to talk about one which is of enormous consequence to the workers in Ohio and, in fact, throughout this country. When I was first elected to the United States Senate in the early 1990s, the issue of NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, surfaced. And what corporate America and what the Republicans and what some of the Democrats were saying, this is going to be a great agreement, going to create all kinds of jobs in America. I didn't believe that for 1 second. And in fact, in the early 1990s, I was on the picket lines in opposition to NAFTA. And years later, I opposed an even worse trade agreement, permanent normal trade relations with China. Now, to my mind, you didn't need a PhD in economics to understand that a trade agreement written by corporate America was designed to force American workers to compete against desperately poor people all over the world. And in my view, American workers should not have to compete against people making pennies an hour. And the results of NAFTA, the results of the trade agreement with China, is that this country has lost millions of decent paying jobs. Communities around this country here in the Midwest, in Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, have been devastated. Since 2001, this country has lost almost 60. American workers should not have to compete against people making pennies an hour. And the results of NAFTA, the results of the trade agreement with China, is that this country has lost millions of decent paying jobs. Communities around this country here in the Midwest, in Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, have been devastated. Since 2001, this country has lost almost 60,000 factories. 60,000 factories. And many of the jobs that were lost were good paying jobs, union jobs, jobs with health care, decent benefits. And when workers lost those jobs, they were forced, in many instances, to take jobs that pay half the wages and offered without any benefits at all. And one of the major differences between Secretary Clinton and myself is she supported virtually all of those disastrous trade agreements. I opposed all of those disastrous trade agreements. And I think that history will record that my vote was the right vote. Her support for those trade agreements was absolutely wrong and devastating. I want to tell you a brief story. In the early 1990s, I went with a congressional delegation to the Maquiladora area in Mexico. And that's a region in Mexico where companies, American companies, European companies, are able to exist and put factories in a tax-free zone. I went to visit those factories, and what I saw in Mexico were factories that were owned by major American corporations, some European corporations, state-of-the-art, beautiful factories in the early 1990s. And I said, I want to go out, I want to visit the workers in those factories. I want to go to their homes and talk to them. The only problem was I couldn't go to the homes of some of those workers because those workers were not living in homes, they were living in cardboard shacks, drinking filthy water. So what those trade agreements were about are throwing American workers out on the street and exploiting ruthlessly Mexican workers. I've got a message for corporate America, and that is you want us to purchase your products. Every night you advertise on TV, buy this, buy that, buy the other thing. If you want us to buy your products, the time is long overdue for you to start manufacturing those products here in the United States. Here in the United States and not in China or other low-wage countries. And right now we're dealing with this Trans-Pacific Partnership. Something that I opposed from day one because the same old disastrous trade policies. No, I do not believe that American workers should have to compete against people in Vietnam where the minimum wage is 65 cents an hour. That is not the kind of trade agreements I will support. I believe in fair trade, not unfettered free trade. Number two, you know, there's an expression in American politics called follow the money. Follow the money. Where do candidates get their money from? One of the very significant disagreements, I was going to say huge disagreements, but I knew it would trigger that response. But one of the major disagreements and approaches that I have with Secretary Clinton is how we raise funds that we need to run for office. It's a pretty expensive proposition. When I began this campaign, I had to make a decision. And the decision was with the understanding that every candidate out there had a super PAC. Super PACs which raise large amounts of money from corporations and special interests. Would I go the same route as the other candidates? And it took me about 1/10 of a second to say, no, we're not going to do it. Truth is, I do not represent Wall Street, do not represent corporate America, do not represent the billionaire over the last 10 months, we have received from our campaign over 5 million individual contributions. More individual contributions than any candidate in the history of the United States. At this point in the campaign, you know what the average contribution is? Brilliant. This is a brilliant group of people. $27. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln in Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. Secretary Clinton has taken a different road in terms of raising money. She has several super PACs, and her largest super PAC a while back reported that in their last filing period, they received $25 million from special interests, $15 million from Wall Street alone. In addition, as many of you know, Secretary Clinton has given speeches to Goldman Sachs, a major financial institution, behind closed doors, and earned $225,000 a speech. I believe she gave 3 speeches. Now, what I believe about those speeches is if you get paid $225,000 for a speech, it must be a fantastic speech. It must be a speech of Shakespearean quality. So I think that for $225,000, she might want to share the wisdom in that speech with all of us. Secretary Clinton says, well, she'll do that if other people make their transcripts available. So let me make a dramatic announcement. Right here in Toledo, I am prepared right now to release all of the transcripts that I have given in my speeches to Wall Street, which is pretty easy because there ain't no transcript, no speeches. And if I did give a speech to Wall Street, it would not be behind closed doors. It would be in front of all these TV cameras. And what I would tell them is that their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior help destroy this economy. And that 3 out of 4 of the largest financial institutions in this country today are bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. Therefore, we've got to reestablish Glass-Steagall legislation. And even more significantly, we've got to break them up. Now, I don't know, maybe that's why I haven't gotten an invitation from Wall Street. I don't know. Second issue, or third issue, as to where Secretary Clinton and I disagree, and I think Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard talked about this a little bit. Foreign policy, obviously, is one of the very, very important roles that a president has. the most important foreign policy decision that has been made in this country in modern American history was whether or not we should go to war in Iraq. I listened very carefully to what President Bush and Vice President Cheney had to say about that war. I didn't believe one word of it. I voted against that war. Secretary Clinton heard the same evidence that I heard. She voted for that war. So I think when we talk about foreign policy, one of us applied good judgment, one of us didn't. Now, in this campaign, I have been accused of thinking too big, of thinking about the kind of country that you and I know that we can be. I have been accused of stating that it is irresponsible to understand that there is something fundamentally wrong when hundreds of thousands of bright, qualified young people are unable to afford to go to college. That it is wrong to acknowledge the absurdity of millions of people in this country, some young and some not so young, being crushed under the burden of heavy student debt. Anybody here have student debt? And I've talked to people all over this country, 30,000, 50,000, doctor in Vermont, 300,000, dentist in Iowa, 400,000. People paid over 50% of their limited income in student debt repayments. I believe that in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, it is not good enough to be talking about first grade through 12th grade. The world has changed. The nature of our economy has changed. People need more education. And that is why I believe that in 2016, when we talk about public education, we talk about making public colleges and universities tuition free. Recognize that it is crazy, and I mean crazy, to tell millions of people that they're going to have to be paying off student debt for decades. For what crime did they commit? For trying to get the best education they could? That's not a crime. People should be rewarded, not punished, for getting an education. To refinance that debt at the lowest interest rates they can find, substantially lower. Now, I am told by my opponents and the corporate media and the establishment, Bernie, you're Santa Claus, you want to give it all away. How are you going to pay for it? Well, let me tell you how we are going to pay for it. We're going to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. When Wall Street's greed nearly destroyed our economy, the Congress bailed them out. Now it is Wall Street's time to help the middle class of this country. This campaign is discussing some very unpleasant truths about America, but I believe it is important for us to face up to where we are, because we cannot go forward unless we have a serious discussion about where we are today. Let me tell you three things. Number one, I'm not happy to tell you this, but it's the truth. Today in America, we have a corrupt campaign finance system which is undermining American democracy. I wish I could come up with a softer, less harsh word, but that's what it is. When you have the Koch brothers and other billionaire families spending $900 million to elect candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful, that is not democracy, that is oligarchy. We're going to change that. Economy. What does a rigged economy mean? A rigged economy means that the average American's working longer hours for lower wages. People are working 1, 2, 3 jobs to cobble together some income and some health care. 58% of all new income created is going to the top 1%. That's a rigged economy. A rigged economy is when corporations make billions of dollars a year in profit, stash their money in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens, and don't pay a penny in federal income tax. That's a rigged economy. A rigged economy is when one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. And a rigged economy is when that wealthy family, the wealthiest family in America, becomes the largest recipient of welfare in the United States of America. The wages paid at Walmart are so low that many of their employees are forced to rely on Medicaid, food stamps, and subsidized housing in order to survive. You pay taxes to provide Medicaid, food stamps, and subsidized housing for the employees of the wealthiest family in America. That is a rigged economy. And I say to the Walton family, get off of welfare, pay your workers a living wage. Wages in America. Every person here and almost everybody in America, Republican, Democrat, Independent, everybody knows that a $7.25 minimum wage is a starvation wage. You can't make it on $7.25, you can't make it on $9, you can't make it on $10. And that is why together we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Everybody here also knows that there is something fundamentally wrong when women go to work tomorrow, go to work on Monday, and they're sitting in a room with some guy, and that woman is making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. And that is why I hope and expect that every man in this room will stand would pay a tribute. This campaign is listening to the American people, not wealthy campaign contributors. We are listening to senior citizens and disabled veterans. And what they are telling me is they can't make it on $11,000, $12,000 a year Social Security. Now, amazingly enough, and it really is beyond comprehension, you got Republicans out there who want to cut Social Security. Well, I've got bad news for them. We're not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security. This campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the African American community. And they understand, as we all do, that the current criminal justice system is broken. That it is unacceptable that this country has more people in jail than any other country on earth, largely African American, Latino, and Native Americans. And here's my pledge to you. One term in the White House, we will not have more people in jail. Invest in education and jobs for our young people, not jail and incarceration. And everyone, every decent person in this country, black, white, Latino, Asian American, whoever, are sick and tired of watching videos of unarmed people, often African American, being shot by police. Officers for decades. Vast majority of police officers in this country are hardworking, honest, and have a very difficult job in front of them. But if a police officer, like any other public official, breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We've got to start demilitarizing our local police department. Police departments should look like the diversity of the communities they serve. In my state of Vermont, joining New Hampshire and all over this country, we have a major crisis in terms of heroin addiction and overdoses and opiate addiction and overdoses. A major national crisis. What we have got to understand is that substance abuse and drug addiction are mental health issues, not criminal. Substance Act, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug, the highest level of all, right alongside of heroin. Now we can argue, and scientists do argue, the pluses and the minuses of marijuana, but no sane person believes that marijuana is similar to heroin. Heroin is a killer drug. That is why I have introduced legislation to take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substances Act. I am a member of the United States Senate Committee on the Environment. And in that capacity, I have spoken to scientists all over our country and all over the world. The debate is over. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity. Climate change is already doing devastating damage in our country and all over the world. And what the scientists tell us, and this is very scary stuff, is if we don't get our act together in a short period of time, this planet will be between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer by the end of this century. More drought, more flood, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, more international conflict as people fight over limited natural resources. We have a moral obligation to work with China, Russia, India, and countries all over this world in standing up to the fossil fuel industry and telling them that their short-term profits are not as important as leaving this planet habitable for our children and our grandchildren. Now, Republicans go all over this country. They talk about family values. And I want to be clear, I know not everybody agrees with me and I respect other people's opinion. But when Republicans talk about family values, what they are saying is that every woman in this room, in this state, in this country, does not have the right to control her own body. I disagree. Gay brothers and sisters do not have the right to be married. I disagree. Now, when I talk about family values, and my wife Jane and I have been married for 27 years. We have 4 kids. What we talk about is the international embarrassment of the United States being the only major country on earth that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. And here is the outrage. Today in Ohio, today in Vermont, a woman is giving birth to a beautiful baby. But if that mom is working class or low income, the likelihood is that she is going to have to separate herself from that baby in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because she has to go back to work and earn enough income to take care of that family. That is exactly the right response. Mothers should not be forced to be separated from their babies because they lack income. And that is why I strongly support legislation in the Congress that guarantees every family in this country 3 months of paid family medical leave. I was in Flint, Michigan last week. And what I saw there and what I heard from people there literally shook me. After talking to a group of people, I had to go out and give a speech. It was very hard for me to give that speech. Because what I heard from parents was that for the last several years, their beautiful children were being poisoned by lead in the water. And these moms were seeing with their own eyes the cognitive destruction of their children. Can you imagine being a parent and seeing kids who were bright, outgoing, now in special education because of lead poisoning? To imagine for 1 minute that this could happen in the United States of America in the year 2016 is beyond comprehension. Most extreme example. But all over this country, cities are struggling with their water systems, with their wastewater plants. In my state of Vermont, we have bridges which are in massive disrepair. Roads all over this country need work. Our rail system used to be the best in the world. We're now falling behind other countries. Airports, levees, dams need enormous amounts of work. This is America. Our infrastructure should not be collapsing. And that is why I have proposed $1 trillion investment to create 13 million good-paying jobs, rebuilding our roads, bridges, and roads. Criticized for a lot of things in this campaign, but the basic criticism is I am thinking too big. I am trying to help create an America that works for all of us, not just the people on top. And the ruling class of America feels uncomfortable with that idea. Give you a very clear example of this. Every major country on earth, whether it's the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Holland, Scandinavia, Canada, every major country on earth guarantees health care to all of their people. That's a fact. Now, I'm a member of the committee that helped write the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act has done some very good things. We have ended this obscenity called pre-existing conditions. 17 million Americans now have health insurance who previously didn't. We have ended discrimination against women in terms of the cost of their health care premiums because they were women. But the other reality. Despite the gains of the ACA, 29 million Americans have no health insurance, and many of you are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. All of you and every person in this country is paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs because the pharmaceutical industry is ripping us off big time. The situation is so crazy. Talk about crazy. 1 out of 5 Americans can't even afford the prescriptions their doctors prescribe. That's crazy. Meanwhile, on top of all of that, we end up paying far, far more per capita for health care than do the people of any other country. We pay almost 3 times what the British do, 50% more than the French, much more than the Canadians. And that is why I believe, and I have always believed, that health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. Toward a Medicare for all healthcare system. Moving in that direction guarantees quality, comprehensive care for all. We save middle-class families thousands of dollars a year on their healthcare costs. Now, one of the criticisms leveled at me is people say, well, Bernie, you're a nice guy, you comb your hair really nicely. You're a top-notch dresser, but despite those attributes, you really can't win a general election in November. So let me tell those people that if you look at the polls out there, virtually every poll has me beating Donald Trump, often by double digits. Michigan, a week or 2 ago, we were ahead of them by 19 points in Michigan. And in fact, almost all of those polls have us beating Trump by a wider margin than Hillary Clinton. But more important than polls, together we will beat Donald Trump, because the American people will not accept a president who insults Mexicans. We will not accept a president who insults Muslims. We will not accept a president who insults women. African-American community. I want everybody here to remember, because some of you may have forgotten, that Trump was one of the leaders of the so-called birther movement. And that was a very dangerous and ugly effort to try to delegitimize President Barack Obama. Suggests that he shouldn't be president because he was supposedly not born in America. Well, a funny thing, President Obama's father was born in Kenya. My father was born in Poland. Nobody has asked me for my birth certificate. Now we will defeat Trump because the American people understand that bringing our people together, black and white and Latino and Asian American, gay and straight, people born in this country, people born abroad, bringing us together will always trump dividing us up. Working together always trumps selfishness. And maybe most importantly, what the American people understand is what every major religion on earth has taught us, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism. And that is that at the end of the day, love trumps hatred. We have since won 9 state primaries. And we have won most of them by double-digit margins. Now, what we have learned from this campaign is a pretty simple political principle. And that is when there are large voter turnouts, when working people and young people and people who have given up on the political process jump back in and demand that our government represents all of us. When there are large voter turnouts, we win and often win big. Last Tuesday, in Michigan last Tuesday, we were told, oh, you can't win. That state is not for you. You know what happened? There was a huge in some precincts, they ran out of ballots. That's how big it was. If we can have a similar type turnout here in Ohio, we're going to win next Tuesday. Forward in a political revolution. Let's do it next Tuesday. Thank you all.
Well, hi, everybody. That was Bernie Sanders, live from Toledo, Ohio. and what sounded like a massive crowd. I was reading the comments. It looks like we had more than 5,000 people there. 5,900 I saw scroll through. Yeah, 5,900 people approximately. At Chad Davis, if you're still here. That's I don't know who dropped it in, one of the Bernie 2016 TV mods. Thank you for joining us for that. We waited to the last minute to pull it up because we really weren't sure if we were actually going to get a feed of that. And as you saw, in the middle of the Fox 8 feed, they had the guy come in and he was getting ready. That happens all the time because a lot of these feeds, folks, are just used by the stations just as a landing place, a placeholder. And so they're not providing it here for you to watch, really, when the guy comes in and does what he's doing to get ready for the shot. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But we really appreciate Fox 8. And this feed, we actually ended up switching to a feed from Local 12, WKRC Cincinnati, CBS, which really reminds me of WKRP, and I'm sure they get that all the time. But whatever, that just makes me old. Anyway, we have another Bernie Sanders rally coming up. It's tonight. It's going to be in Illinois, and that is C-SPAN. But here's the deal with that one, folks. It's supposed to be a concert. It's for us a Future to Believe in concert, and it's supposed to have some guys from Vampire Weekend. And that event starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, but I don't know that we have a feed for that. I know that C-SPAN is going to carry Bernie Sanders starting at 9, but they generally don't bring us the concert. If they're cool enough to bring us the concert, it'll start before that, or maybe they'll delay it an hour. That's also the problem we have with trying to grab these feeds. So if anybody knows of a local feed, hey, Fox 10 Phoenix, are you gonna do the rally tonight? You always seem to carry the Bernie feeds lately. So let us know, folks, if you can find one, we'll use it. Really quick update, just, something the Sanders camp was doing while they were running for president. They were helping those kids in Ohio that couldn't vote, the 17-year-olds that weren't allowed to vote. Judge just passed a rule saying they can vote, right? Isn't that what I'm reading here? Or they temporary halt. The judge, 17-year-olds can vote. Yeah, so they switched it because that had been the issue in the Sanders campaign, of course. Here we are in the middle of fighting the establishment media blackout. We're fighting the giant machine, and we need to take some time out because here's voter suppression happening. We got to get our lawyers involved in the case. That's the kind of campaign they run, not like the opponent. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for joining us. We had more than 500 people with us today. That was absolutely fantastic. Really, really awesome to have you all here. And we'll see you later today with the broadcast from Illinois. If we can't find the concert at the beginning, we'll come to you with a half-hour pre-show. There's lots of news to talk about. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been going down. A lot of endorsements coming through, movement in the campaign because, we've landed, folks. The revolution is here. We've been kicking ass for months, and they can't stop us now. They can't. Their rhetoric doesn't make any sense anymore, and we are winning this battle. We are winning. Don't listen to anything anybody says on establishment media. We are winning. So keep it up. Keep up the good fight. We want to go out with a song. We might as well go out with a song. I had something else loaded up for today, and then Nico was kind enough to bring by a piece from Oak Flat. She did some original work. But this is cool. We're going to go out with this. It's a little long, but it's I haven't heard anything new from Matt Orfalia in a while, and he delivers such fantastic piecework. And this is a new one published on March 10th. So it's called Now is the Time. Bernie Sanders. Let me frame this up. We'll go out with this great piece. Well, I thought we'd go out with this great piece. What's going on there? The hell? Give it a second, folks. It's Chrome. It just freaked out on me. And it started to talk already. So it looks like we got Harry Belafonte testimony in this. Got some new music, all sorts of fun stuff. Loaded it up. 1 second. All right. See you, everybody. Have a good time. We'll see you tonight. Feel the burn. Get out there. Phone bank. Caucus. Vote. Canvas. BernieSanders.com. Connect.BernieSanders.com. Go there. Get connected. Help us. This is the political revolution. The most important thing you can do right now is to get on the phone bank for the states we have coming up. Do it. See you a little bit later.
know, the last thing Dr. King said to me before he was murdered, Martin said, you know, I sit here deeply concerned that I suspect we are leading our nation on an integration trip that has us integrating into a burning house. Most of the politicians I know of make promises only to walk into the places of power and then deny us. I guess part of the reason I'm here is to really look through the ravages of the Democratic Party and see if anything is really worth salvaging.
Welcome, Senator Sanders.
If you like Luther King's candidate who lines up.
Sanders is the symbol for all that is right in this country.
He's an honest guy, and he's one of the main platforms.
Bringing up a lot of issues that need to be dealt with.
The corporate media has been unfair to him.
We have some special guests joining us this morning. Senator Bernie Sanders and rapper and friend to the room, Killer Mike.
Hey, Mike's like his #1 shooter.
If you work 40 hours a week, you should not be in poverty. That's why I'm here.
People are scared to go to the doctor because the bill will be so expensive.
We as a nation have a moral obligation. Universal health care. He is a champion for civil rights.
Ending a bullshit war, making sure our children can go to college.
And ladies, we want our whole damn dollar.
When you have an opportunity to tell two black girls to shut up and get off stage and you don't, and you shake their hand and you smile and you step to the side and you listen, that is a difference from turning around and staring at a little black girl and saying, shut up, I'll talk to you later.
I want to know how you feel about somebody their firewall. You have to earn the black vote. You don't own the black vote.
If I can find a picture of you from 51 years ago, chained to a black woman, protesting segregation, and I know 51 years later, you're willing to fold your arm, hold your head, and listen to two black girls yell and scream, rightfully so.
My life matters!
As opposed to someone who will tell you to shut up. As opposed to someone who will tell you later, when it comes to your children dying in the streets.
Erica Garner, the daughter of Eric Garner, who died in a police chokehold, is supporting Sanders.
Cornel West hitting the campaign trail for Senator Bernie Sanders.
The only one running without a super PAC. The only one that ain't got all them big billions of dollars behind him.
Bernie Sanders is not just talking about it. He wants the walk. If we can abolish slavery in this nation, if women can get the right to vote, universal health care can happen.
Spike Lee is throwing his support behind the Vermont senator.
Free college can happen.
I'm not here to talk about a dream that we think is unattainable, so we settle for less.
This is no time to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
The cause is right, and the time is now.
That's why I've endorsed Bernie Sanders.
Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time.
Senator Sanders is the best option that we have in the race.
He is a champion for civil rights and social justice.
When Bernie Sanders took that step to say, we need to address police brutality, in my opinion, that just speaks volumes when it comes to being courageous and being bold.
We make our history right here this moment.
The Bernie Sanders campaign is the love train. We spend more money in this country to keep folks in prison. Why can't we invest some of that money to educate folks? Get on the movement.
Black Lives Matter.
You can feel the burn. Don't you feel the burn?
Enough is enough.
Is enough.
Is enough.
And thank you, sir. Hey,
Oh, that was rich. That was rich.
Huge